What's up, everyone? Today we are going to talk about this mixed charts in Cambridge IELTS 17. There isn't a lot of data in these charts. We can simply report them all. So this video will be focusing more on the language, like how to use different grammatical constructions to describe trends. Let's look at the question first. The table and the pie charts in general are about the police budget for 2017 and 2018 in one area of Britain. Specifically, the table shows where the money came from. The pie charts show how the money was spent. As you probably know, the introductory paragraph should be a paraphrase of this text. You may want to combine the first and the second sentences. Better not. There are some very good reasons why the original split the information into two sentences. The table shows where the money came from. This clause is short. The chart shows how it was distributed. This clause is short as well. The whole sentence is well balanced and contrasts the table very well with the two pie charts. If we combine the two sentences and write something like this, the table shows where the police budget for 2017 and 2018 in one area of Britain came from, and the chart shows how the money was distributed. If you write something like this, the balance will be broken. This sentence doesn't flow well because of this long subject. The two clauses don't do a good job of contrasting the table with the pie charts because of this long subject. Let's just paraphrase these two sentences one by one. This information is pretty general, right? It tells us that the table and the charts in general are about the police budget. That's why give information on is used. Give information on is a pretty general idea. You shouldn't change it to words like show and display. It then moves to the more specific information. Specifically, the table shows the sources of the money. Specifically, the pie chart shows how the money was spent. That's why show is used. Show is often used to refer to numbers in charts. So I will do only a slight variation on give information on. The table and the pie chart provide the information about. In terms of this part, there's no way we can change the individual words, but we can rearrange the elements in this phrase. We can move the years to the beginning, the 2017 to 18 police budget of one area of Britain. This is a good paraphrase because it uses different grammar in the noun phrase even though the vocabulary is basically the same. In terms of where the money came from, we can instead use source. The table displays the sources of the money. Now, how can we replace money? Can we replace it with budget and say the sources of the budget? No, we can't. The budget here refers to the budget in the first sentence. But in the first sentence, budget doesn't mean money. In English, budget as a noun can mean just money in the casual sense, but it more commonly means a plan to spend money. A budget is a plan describing what various things money will be spent on. This is exactly what budget means in the first sentence. It means a plan. The plan needs money. This is what the table is about. And the pie charts show what the plan allocated that money to. So here, what we want to say is the budget's money, meaning the plan's money. But we want to replace money, right? We can say the budget's funds, the sources of the budget's funds. In terms of how it was distributed, we can instead say where the funds went. As you can see, by keeping both clauses short, we made the contrast between the table and the pie chart clear. The whole sentence also flows smoothly. Now let's move on to the overview paragraph. We need to pick the 2 to 3 most important features of the chart to include in this paragraph. Obviously, we need to talk about the total budget in the overview. Overall, the total police budget increased. I will also talk about the national government in this paragraph since it was the biggest category of the three, with the national government being the biggest funder in both years. Now the pie charts. When it comes to pie charts, do you think that downward and upward trends are more noticeable than the biggest categories? No, I don't think so. What I noticed first is that salaries were the biggest category in both years. I didn't first notice that this category decreased, this one increased, and this one we made the same. So for the pie chart, I will say that in terms of expenditure, salaries remained the primary source. To avoid repeating source, we can instead say primary form. Here, form means type. There are 3 types of expenditure, and the money spent on salaries was one of them. Now let's move on to details paragraph 1, in which I will describe the table in detail. Basically, what we want to say is that the total budget increased, money from the national government increased, local taxes increased, and other sources also increased. I will show you different ways to say that something increased. Let's start with the total. So instead of saying it's increased from X to Y, we can first report the first number. In 2017, the place had a total budget of X million pounds. Next, I will move on to describe the increase, which rose significantly to Y million pounds in 2018. Here, I used the which clause to describe the increase. Now, the national government. Apart from describing the increase, I will also mention that it was the biggest category in both years. The majority of this money was sourced from the national government. Please note that I didn't use any linking words to link these 2 sentences. But it doesn't mean there is a lack of coherence. Linking words are just one of the several ways to link sentences and paragraphs. Another way is to use something from the previous sentence. By using this money, I naturally linked the second sentence to the first sentence because this money refers to the total budget money in the first sentence. I used something from the first sentence to link these 2 sentences. So this is saying that the national government was the biggest category. Now I will add the trend, with an increase from X to Y million pounds. So far we've used a which clause and a prepositional phrase to describe trends. Let's continue. As for local taxes, not only will I describe the trend, I will also state that they had the largest increase. Of all sources of funding, local taxes saw the largest growth from X to Y million pounds. Finally, other sources. Again, instead of just saying that they increased, we can split it into 2 clauses. We can first report the second number. Whilst the other sources accounted for 38.5 million pounds of the total budget in 2018, and then we describe the increase. 0.5 million pounds more than the previous year, or up from 38 million pounds the previous year. Here are all the ways I used in this paragraph to describe the trends. Which rose, with an increase, saw the largest growth. 0.5 million pounds more than the previous year, up from 38 million pounds the previous year. Details paragraph 1 is done. Now details paragraph 2, the pie charts. In terms of salaries, I will say that they were the biggest category. I will also say that they decreased. Expenditure primarily consisted of officer and staff salaries, although the proportion decreased from 75% of the total to 69%. I want to explain why expenditure instead of the expenditure is used. You see here, we need to use the proportion to refer to the proportion of expenditure on salaries because proportion is a countable singular noun. If you use the countable singular noun proportion without the definite article, it won't be grammatical. However, expenditure is uncountable. Therefore, the definite article is unnecessary. Readers understand that expenditure refers to place expenditure. Expenditure is clear enough, but if you are not comfortable with it, you can add please and say place expenditure, but please is not necessary. Let me give you another example. This slide shows the percentage of households that owned a washing machine. In 1920, 40% of the households owned a washing machine. And then we can say ownership increased to 70% in 1960. Ownership is uncountable, so we just say ownership. We don't need to say the ownership. The context makes it clear that we are talking about washing machine ownership. Now let's go back to these charts. Let's finish the remaining 2 categories. However, spending on technology almost doubled from 8 to 14%, whereas expenditure on buildings and transport remained unchanged, or you can say remained the same at 17%. Here, can we use remained constant? It's not wrong, but constant is definitely not the best word choice here. This is because constant expresses some sense of continuity. It's normally used when there are a lot of data points over a period of time. In this simple two-point analysis, it's better to remove the sense of continuity and use unchanged or the same. That's all for this video. You can go to my website to check out the entire essay. The link is in the description. And here is the playlist of the writing tasks in Cambridge 17. I will continue to add videos to this playlist. Be sure to check it out. Thanks for watching. Bye!